everybody, to the RYLACast, official podcast of the Camp RYLA, Rotary District 5810. I want to give a huge shout out to all the Rotarians who sent us to this camp and gave us this opportunity. My name is Georgia Tab. I'm from Ennis, Texas, and I'm in Girls Cabin 2. Here's a few other people who will be talking today.
Hi, my name is Chloe Pham, and I'm from Garland, Texas, and I am in Cabin 3.
Hi, my name is Aaron Sheppy, and I'm from Plano, Texas. I am in Cabin B4.
My name is Jaden Sterling. I'm from Grand Prairie, Texas, and I am in Girls Cabin 7.
My name is Aiden Lee. I'm from Bonham, Texas, and I'm in Stinger 7.
My name is Reginald Sampson. I'm from Garland, Texas, and I'm in Cabin B1.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. We'll start with our first question. Prior to RYLA, what were your expectations?
So prior to RYLA, I expected it to be scorching hot and we'd be out in the sun just sweating so much, but it's been super rainy lately, and I do prefer that over being like hot and sweaty.
I'm going to be honest. I was thinking it was going to be very awkward with like a lot of intelligent people, so I was expecting the worst.
My first impression or like expectation for RYLA was, since it was a leadership camp, I was expecting exactly, I guess, what we got. Lots of extroverts. I'm just excited to be able to broaden my leadership skills here.
I was expecting a more physically demanding camp because I didn't know much about RYLA when I first came. So being introduced to all these team-based and building activities really broadened my scope of RYLA as a whole and was a really good intro to my summer.
Yeah, first introduction, I was kind of, again, thinking more about like the physical games and everything that we'd be doing, and didn't like think about really more of like the sessions we would have and like what all we would be learning. And I feel like I'm kind of, I wouldn't say enjoying more, but I am liking a lot of the sessions that we're having throughout camp.
These are all lovely answers. On to question 2. What was your first impression of your cabin?
I would say my first impression of my cabin, first off, after being rushed out of the car and your bags thrown at you and then just dropped off in this cabin. Whenever I first walked in, it was just super quiet. All the girls sort of just stared at me. I was shaking from all the adrenaline, and we just had to figure it out. Nobody really told me anything, but we got it all figured out, and I love my cabin.
When I first seen my cabin, they were all very tall, like 6 foot plus. So it was really intimidating because they were just staring down at me.
I feel like I could also agree with Georgia on it being like super quiet. I can't lie, like the first 30 minutes were like so awkward. We were all just staring at each other, but eventually we just kind of sat in the middle and just started talking about our personal lives.
My experience is kind of similar to both Aiden and Chloe because the first hour or so we were all just on our beds staring at each other, or if not staring at each other, trying to fall asleep, kind of just avoiding confrontation as a whole. So that kind of wasn't the best first impression, but eventually we all warmed up to each other. I can say we've formed some friendships, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah, I can say the same. It was very quiet when we came in. There's just one person like, hey, there's the bathroom, pick a bed, make a name tag for your locker. And I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. But as more people like showed up, we all started talking to each other, and everything kind of worked out.
Yeah, that's all great. That's really funny because when I first walked in, everybody just stared at me, and I was pretty nervous first time walking in. And, well, the first friend I made was the guy who actually is sleeping next to me, which is great. It's really fun just to get to know everybody slowly and surely, and eventually you get to make friends with the entire cabin. It's all a deep level of respect there. So, on to question number 3. Have you noticed any social cliques, and how can you break them?
I think at first we kind of we went outside, we played a game really fast, and then we came back in, and we kind of had like 2 separate groups of like there was like one bigger group who was like on one side of the room having their own conversation, and then there was 4 of us on the other side of the room kind of having our own conversation. And so we kind of were split up then, but I think after a while we all got more comfortable around each other, and we didn't really have any like cliques, you would say. I think we were all just like just one big family.
I have noticed cliques. More extroverted people, I could tell, like tend to like bunch up compared to introverts. So it's more like extroverts and introverts. But it's really at the end of the day, like, we're a family for a whole week. So eventually it's like been breaking, and I can already tell from day 2.
I agree with what Jaden and both Aiden said. Like, there were very, very like prominent signs of our cliques, and it depended on the extroverted. And right after like the icebreaker games, you immediately saw those cliques as soon as you went inside. But I think at the end of the day, we all like at lunch, we all get along, and like I think the cliques are slowly starting to break themselves. And I think the best way to do that is whenever you are supposed to partner up or something, go to somebody that you haven't talked to yet or like had a real conversation with besides in a group session or groups. Oh my gosh. It's okay.
There were around 3 cliques or so when we first started. There was a duo, and then the typical kind of split in half group. So we'd have maybe 4 guys on one side, 4 guys the other side. But what really helped us break those cliques were the activities that we would all do together. Just like was earlier said, we went outside, we played, what was it called? Splat. That was a game that we all really enjoyed. We played Splat. And then when we came back inside, we were kind of forced to sit on the mattresses in the middle so that that's our type of living room. We have our beds at the side of the cabin, and then those beds on the floor in the middle that's our place for fellowship. So just really being in that place helped us to get to know each other better, our interests, what we don't like, and brought us all closer.
Would you mind explaining Splat for us?
Splat. So it's a really fun game. You get in a circle, and there's one person in the middle, typically our counselor or assistant counselor, and they'll point at a person. Now, this person, of course, is in between 2 other people, so the person that they point to has to squat faster than the other 2 people can point at the center and yell splat. Now, the purpose, it's kind of like a race. So if you get caught in the center, you're out. But other than that, the 2 people that point at each other, whoever says splat first gets to stay in the circle.
So for me, I think I really agree with Reggie on, I have seen cliques, but they're starting to like disintegrate as we start doing these more activities. Like the first activity we did was between the boys and the girls cabin where we first met them, and I can't lie, it was extremely awkward. And I did kind of fall into one of the cliques where I kind of stayed with like a certain group because I was like too scared to like get to know the other people. But for the first activity we did, it was where there was like a 2 feet square and we had to fit 12 people in it, and that sounded really impossible, and it was, because the entire time we would just kind of group up with our friends and just not communicate with the whole team. But as we did more activities and got feedback on like communicating, we all started to talk to all of each other instead of just like these groups. And for the last activity that we did, we got it done in like the 2nd try compared to like the 5th or the 6th try.
I think Cabin 7's been doing a really great job at like breaking social cliques, just because like they have us with our backpacks. They've been making us clip our backpack clips to another person's every single time we walk somewhere, and it has to be a different person every single time. So we get to talk to somebody new and kind of like it's not stay with the group, that same group, or just people you're comfortable with every single time you go somewhere.
That's great. So as you may have heard, we've been doing a bunch of activities throughout the day. So I want to ask you, what were your favorite activities, and how did you learn from it?
I think my favorite activity was probably when we were all on a red line and we were quiet, because most of the time we were loud. So when we were really quiet, it kind of like brought our senses, like our different senses, and we were able to like do the best in every activity, like that activity solely, and we really like did it like as a team. So, yeah.
My favorite activity so far would definitely be where we had to like use the ropes and get the bowling ball over into like the crate. As hard as that sounds, you can only grab the rope with one hand, and you're not allowed to like touch the bowling ball. And we had to lift them over cardboard boxes. And I actually had the idea to make slip knots, and we tied a bunch of slip knots around my bowling ball, and we were able to even get it picked up and get it all the way over there. And at the last second, it dropped, so we could not get it into the thing, which it was a failure, but like it was and what I learned from that is like I didn't think my idea of the slip knots was going to work, let alone be able to pick up this bowling ball, and it ended up working. So what I learned from that was just be confident in any idea because you never know, so.
My favorite activity for so far has been the human knot, simply because everyone was together. It was loud, definitely, and people, lots of screaming, my arms, who's touching my leg, but it was just a really fun activity that we all learned. You have to listen to each other, because on one side people were free, but then once you looked at the middle, you had people under each other, people pressed up because they were just stuck. So what we learned not only from that but throughout the day was there's so many voices that want to be heard, but in reality you have to take as much from from multiple plans and kind of apply it to one while still being as efficient as you can.
I think for me, my favorite activity was the last one, and the reason for that is because of the lessons that we have learned from the prior to the last activity. For the last activity, it was like we had a bunch of pipes and we had to put a ball through and make it through a big staircase and not have it drop. And surprisingly, it worked really well because instead of 4 people yelling and we have 4 leaders, we had 2 leaders who had like a prior experience to this, and everybody was listening, and we also learned each other's names instead of just pointing out and saying you, or just staying there being awkward.
I'd say my favorite activity was also our red line game. We all had to stand on a red line and order ourselves from tallest to shortest without stepping off the red line, and it was, I think, it was like our best, at least for our cabin, it was our best game. And I think it kind of just showed that sometimes our best communication is silent communication, because most of the time our cabin was very loud. There's like a lot of different ideas going on at the same time, but the second we weren't allowed to talk was when we actually like figured it out, and it went well for us.
Yes, these are all great answers. So for the time that we've actually been here, we've experienced a dinner, a breakfast, and a lunch. So, on to question 5. What was your favorite meal so far?
My favorite meal was most definitely breakfast, because that's how you start your day. And the bacon was really good, the eggs were solid, and the casserole was pretty good, I guess.
My favorite meal so far was probably the dinner on Sunday, where they served us chicken, carrots, and baked potatoes. I know Aiden was talking about he didn't like the carrots, but I'm a big fan of steamed carrots.
I think the lunch that we just had was the best one we had so far. The sloppy joe with the cupcake, and what else we have with that? I think that was it. Oh, and the onion rings, that so far was the best, mainly because of the cupcake. That kind of carried everything we had.
For the light-hearted question of our favorite meal, I'd also have to agree with Aiden. Our breakfast was probably the best meal. You can't really go wrong with breakfast, and it was. I enjoyed breakfast out of everything we've had so far. But
I'll say dinner last night. The baked potato was good. You can't mix up a baked potato, I feel. And the bread was fire. I don't know about y'all. It was so good. It was so good for no reason. And then, of course, strawberry shortcake, real good. And the carrots.
Yes.
The carrots are good.
Awesome. I mean, talking about the food is a great way to end all the questions.
We'll give a huge thank you to the official podcast of Camp RYLA, Rotary District 5810. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for tomorrow's RYLA podcast. Oh, and the onion rings,